A warning about the dangers of these things. Guess what else is mentioned in the lineage of Cain? First mention of this in the Bible. I'd like to begin with a pop quiz. I'm a teacher. I get to give you a quiz question. Put the following in order of their origins. Which one came first? Which one came second? And so on and so forth. We've got the Sabbath, marriage, music, and angels. Which was the first to ever exist? Now, before we answer the question, you may be thinking about it. Before I give you the answer, I want to talk about the lineage of Cain. You know about Cain and Abel. These are the first two children of Adam and Eve. Cain, of course, killed Abel, but Cain had a lineage of children, and it's recorded in Genesis 4. Adam and Eve also had another son named Seth. His lineage is also recorded, and he eventually led to Enoch, who was the holy man of God who was translated into heaven. And then, of course, after that, Noah. So Seth's lineage is the holy lineage. Cain is the murderer, and his lineage, you see some very interesting things. Let me put the lineages up on the screen here for you. You can see Cain's descendants. He had an Enoch in his genealogy as well. That's not the Enoch, but then you have Irad, Mehujael, all the way on down to Lamech. Now, Lamech is an interesting one because he was the first person ever mentioned in the Bible to practice polygamy. Now, isn't it fitting that polygamy, having multiple wives, is something that is not of God, obviously? Adam and Eve, there was one man, one woman. But the first mention of polygamy just so happens to be in Cain's lineage. Cain is a lineage of rebellion, of doing things outside of the way that God designed. Cain himself offered a sacrifice, an offering to God that was not an animal sacrifice like God required, but it was just his fruit and vegetable that he offered to the Lord. Cain's lineage is the example of the rebellion against God. Now, given that fact, it's very interesting that there are a few things that are mentioned in the lineage of Cain for the first time in the Bible. Now, there's a biblical interpretive method called the principle of first mention. When you find something mentioned in the Bible for the first time, pay special attention to it. It's going to carry with it some extra significance. For example, the first time that wine is mentioned in the Bible, meaning alcoholic wine. It happens to be when Noah had gotten drunk and then some very shameful and bad things happened. It's a warning against the dangers of wine, isn't it? Well, what else is in the lineage of Cain? You also find the first mention of a city. Now, are cities evil? Not necessarily. We have the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God to this earth in the last events of Revelation. But cities also became hotbeds of iniquity in the Bible. Cities like Babylon were symbolic of wickedness and evil. Also in the lineage of Cain, you find the first mention of metalworking. Now, what is the danger with metalworking? Well, what did they use metal for in the ancient times? It was most famously used for implements of warfare. So you've got cities, you've got implements of warfare, you've got polygamy, all first mentioned in the lineage of Cain. Also, the first mention of the raising of livestock, which obviously led to the consumption of meat and animal food. The consumption of animal flesh as a part of the human diet came in later, not part of God's design in the Garden of Eden. So we see the principle of first mention, very important with these items here. A warning about the dangers of these things. Cities, warfare, implements of war, meat eating, some things that are outside of God's design for us. Guess what else is mentioned in the lineage of Cain? The first mention of this in the Bible. Music. Genesis 4 verse 21 says, his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. So my ears perk up and I go, okay, well the principle of first mention suggests that this is an important fact about music to pay attention to. And it is in the lineage of who again? Cain. So this is a warning. This is a warning. Music may be used in a negative way. It may be used by Satan. And in fact, let's turn to Satan, because music existed even before Jubal did. Music existed as the gift given to Lucifer in heaven. It says the following about Lucifer. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. This is a passage widely known to be about Lucifer, who then fell and became Satan. And of course, he was given the gift of timbrels and pipes. These are musical instruments. So music even predated the lineage of Cain, because Lucifer was up in heaven before earth was ever created. So let's trace it back even further, actually. The origins of music. You find in the 3 different sections of the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible, you find in the law, in the prophets, in the writings, the following statement about God. It's written 3 times. God is my strength, salvation, and song. God is my strength, salvation, and song. And God is my strength, salvation, and song. It shows up in the law, in the writings, and in the prophets. Here it is in Psalm 118, verse 14. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. So music even predated Lucifer. God is our song. In fact, we see God in human flesh, Jesus. He sang in Matthew 26, verse 30. And when they had sung a hymn, Jesus went out to the Mount of Olives, and so on. Now, interestingly, this was at the Passover dinner. And at the Passover, they would have a liturgy of a singing of various psalms. Psalms 113 to Psalm 118. So the last psalm that they would have sung, when they sung a hymn and then left, would have been Psalm 118. Well, guess what it says in Psalm 118? We just saw this graphic. The Lord is my strength and my song. So they were singing about the fact that the Lord was their song. So God is song. There is something within God that is musical. In fact, God himself sings, not just Christ, but the Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. Isn't that beautiful? So, yes, the music can be used for great evil. It was Lucifer's gift in heaven. We're going to talk about that more going forward. And of course, it's mentioned in the lineage of Cain, which is a warning because Cain's lineage is that of wickedness. But nonetheless, let's remember that music is from God. In fact, we were created in God's image. Is it any surprise now that you love music so much, that it speaks to your soul so much? Some recent research has been done about the human DNA. This is absolutely fascinating to me. They've taken the protein sequence and the DNA sequence, the bases of them, and they've assigned each amino acid a pitch. And they'll have the less soluble acids, amino acids that are within the fold in the interior of the molecule have lower pitches, and then the further you get out from that, the higher the pitch is. And they'll create that into music. This is what your DNA and your protein sequence sounds like when translated to music. That was the human speech gene. Isn't that amazing? We are wired, our very DNA is wired musically. This one is the blue cone receptor. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful. We have an amazing God, don't we? Music, at the root of it all. And here we have our answer to our quiz then. What came first? The Sabbath, marriage, music, or angels? The first thing ever was music, because it is a part of who God is. We are created in His image. Music is a part of who we are. Music existed before God ever created angels. Angels, of course, came second. Lucifer was given the gift of music. And then we have the creation of this earth with marriage coming in on the 6th day, Adam and Eve becoming one flesh, and the 7th day, the Sabbath, coming forth out of those.